So 3, 2, 1, presentation.
Welcome to Gold. My name is Jacque de Villiers. I'm a professional speaker and writer. My thing is heart-based selling and marketing. So people ask me to help them with their marketing and with their sales. I specifically focus on the heart side because most of us sell from the head, and when you sell from the heart, you attract amazing things to yourself. So that's really my business. I've spoken for the last 20 years, mainly in South Africa, but also overseas. I've spoken in Iran and I've spoken in Italy. And so people are really interested in how do we resonate with our people, with the people that we are trying to attract to us. And what I really say with heart-based selling and marketing is that your vibe attracts your tribe. So the better vibe you have, you'll attract the kind of tribe that you want yourself. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. As a sideline, which has become quite a serious business, I write books for other people. I've edited and written 33 books, and mainly memoirs. I write memoirs for people. And then I'm also get asked to do copywriting, basic stuff like web copy and blog post and what have you. And I've written a book for my own account, a spiritual text called What If Hollywood Doesn't Call? A Fractured Monk's Guide to Enlightenment. So that's my deal. So my background is I was born into quite a wealthy family from the old era. My grandfather he did three things. He started a little newspaper that you might have heard of called Die Burger through a company called Nationale Pers. And that was on the 26th of July 1915, so it was an Afrikaans newspaper. He then also, with Jannie Marais, they funded Stellenbosch University, which was becoming bankrupt, so they put up £100,000 to develop Stellenbosch. And he became chairman of, KWV, the alcohol enterprise. And he also became a member of parliament for Stellenbosch, Somerset West and Berkeley East. So that was my grandfather's side, so I wasn't born into that. My father was born into that. He became a violinist and then a pastor in the Dutch Reformed Church. He studied in Zurich, got his double doctor's degree in philosophy and theology, and he was very blessed that he took lessons from Carl Jung. So he became that. And so that was the kind of family I was born into. So there was a lot of wealth, but it didn't quite turn out that way for me. So you may be born into wealth, but the journey of life sometimes turns different. My folks divorced when I was a year old, and my mom remarried, and we came to Johannesburg. So I went to a school called King Edward's here in Houghton. I was at boarding school there. I was conscripted into the army, and as most white South Africans were at the time, for 2 years. And when I came out, I thought, what am I going to do with my life? And I decided to go into public relations. So I went to Wits Technikon, where I learned PR. I thought it was going to be all cocktail parties and functions, and meanwhile it was a lot of writing. So as a consequence, I became a really good writer, because in public relations you have to write press releases, you have to deal with the media, you have to really get publicity for your clients. So I ended up working for a mining company called Fraser Alexander, and I was their PR copywriter for 5 years, them and Wastec, which was the waste company at the time. I went out on my own in 1998, well really 2002, because I went into sales, and I was quite a good salesperson. I thought, well, maybe I can teach selling to other people. So I went into that, and that's been where I've been playing. The space is in sales mainly. So I've done about 1,700 talks on sales and marketing, and a whole bunch of training on that, and just to help people become better salesperson. And what I learned in that, and I used to teach predatory sales techniques. I had a course that was called How to Persuade Anyone to Do Almost Anything, based a lot on neuroscience, NLP, all the various persuasion and influencing techniques. And I probably put more than 1,000 people through that course. It was a public course. I should get in my car and go all over the country, to little towns, and run the course. and it was very successful. Except it wasn't resonating with me because I was teaching people techniques of manipulation. And so very quickly I realized this is not really what I want to be teaching people, is how to manipulate other people. So then I started studying the heart, and how do you sell as a human being? How do you become, that you're not predatory, that you more have receptive attention, that you can attract, as I said earlier, your vibe attracts your tribe. How do you attract people to you where you don't actually have to sell? Because once you've connected, then the people are more likely to buy. So I got heavily into that. So I've been studying the heart a lot, and the heart is an important, it's a pumping machine, but it's an important tool in your body. It produces more megawatts than the brain, up to 1,000 times more. If the brain stops functioning, the heart will still function. And really it's a 3-stage process. Your gut, your heart, and your head are the things that attract people to you, that work for you. So that has become a very big topic for me, is heart-based selling and heart-based marketing. And the idea about that is, firstly, you've got to clarify your contribution. What do you contribute to the world? Why are you here? What is it that you want to do? There's gold in your heart, and what is the gold you want to take out and share with the world? So that's the first piece. The second piece of that is finding your ideal customer, as it were. And I like to call them clients and not customers, because a customer is somebody that buys a product and service, and a client is somebody who is under your protection. So if your client is under your protection, then you're going to treat them like family. You're going to go the extra mile for them. So what we attempt to do in the process is find out who is the person you should be speaking to, who's the person you should be connecting to with your heart. And then the third part is, what is the message what is the story you want to tell? So I help people write the story that they want to tell, so that you can attract this kind of person. And why do we do this? Because I believe that we're trying to create light in the world. There's a lot of darkness in the world. You might be finding that in your own life. Nothing ever runs as smooth as you want it to. So how do we create light in ourselves? And that's really purely through love. And I know love is probably a very soft concept in business, but love is what really turns this world around. And if you really love your clients, and if you'll get business. And the idea is not to get business from your client, is to create light for them so that they can be successful. And as a consequence, if you're in business, part of that is that security piece. You obviously want some income, and you want to be successful that way. So I'm big on the heart-based stuff, and that's what I do. Okay. Well, that's quite a difficult question, because for each of us it's different. But from my viewpoint, the first thing is that whether you want to be a success in life, in business, in your relationships, you have to work on yourself. And this is the hard part, because most of us, we like to work we like to help other people, but we're actually not helping ourselves. And ultimately, the trick is to love yourself first. So I'm really big on it, and it sounds selfish, because we're taught that we have to do stuff for the other, what have you. I don't know if you've ever been to Shabbat, which is a Jewish tradition on a Friday night, and what they do in Shabbat is they fill a goblet or glass full of wine, and then they allow it to overflow. And really, well, for me, what I take out of that is, first fill your own cup, because you cannot give if you have an empty cup. So you have to first inspire yourself, come towards yourself. So a lot of the work that I do is around, how do you learn to love yourself? How do you get in touch with yourself? So here's what I like to do. A friend of mine told me about, imagine you had a magic carpet, and who's going to steer the carpet? And really what she said to me is that you should put yourself in the center of the carpet, because you're the one that is steering the carpet. So you can't let other people steer the carpet for you. So when you rely on other people to make you feel good, to make you happy, it's a hiding to nothing, because when I put someone else in charge of my life, I make them powerful and I make myself weak, because they can pull me how they want to, and they can influence me how they want to. Also, what I found in life is that often when we set goals, and maybe you're in a space, we set goals for our lives, we set the perfect marriage, we got the perfect business, the white picket fence, the 2 dogs, the 2 kids, everything's perfect. I don't know about you, but that hasn't worked out for me. And it doesn't work out for most of us. If you purely outcomes based, where you set goals for yourself, the kind of car you want, the kind of house you want, the kind of partner you want, etc., etc., it's quite a dangerous place, because you might get the husband or the wife of your dreams, but as you get into the guts of life, it's not quite what you thought it would be, not the romanticized version that you had of how this is going to work out. Or you want children, and suddenly the children are great for a while until they sort of turn 13, and then you go, what? Because they like teenagers, and now they don't listen to mom and dad, and they're not quite as loving as maybe you thought they'd be. So suddenly you become disappointed and disillusioned, because the thing that you want hasn't turned out to your romantic version of how it should be. And the important word is your expectation. Because when we have expectations and other people don't fit into the way we want them to fit in, then that leads to disappointment and disillusionment. And that's what can happen in our life. So for many of us, and I'm 59 years old, for many of us, our lives haven't worked out how we thought they would work out, or how we planned they would work out. But I often say to people, my life's a perfect mess. It's worked out perfectly as it should. And if you're spiritual, if you believe in God, or you believe in spirit, or if you believe in source, you've got to believe that there is a purpose for you, and the good and the bad that comes into your life is all good. It is all there to take you to the next level. And what is the level? The level is to come to yourself and figure out who you are, because if you can't figure out who you are, it's very difficult to help other people. I'm not saying you can't help other people, but the whole thing is, who are you? So from a spiritual perspective, I believe that God's Spirit is in you as close as your jugular. You are God in a sense, you are in the image, so you create this magnificence that's going to be your life. And what I really believe is that we are the point of this whole exercise. Spirit created this universe and then wanted us to witness it and enjoy it. So let's go and enjoy the thing. But there's 2 ways you can deal with this thing. You can either sit on the couch and treat as a couch potato and treat life as an arbitrary thing, or you can decide that you want to make your life's work into something magnificent, become a magnificent work of art, that you've actually done something with this life of yours. It probably goes to the story of the talents. The one son buried the talents and didn't do anything. The other son created wealth. And what are you doing with your talents? So, and all of us, and here's what I'm saying to you: if you're alive, you still have a purpose. You haven't been called home yet. You have a purpose. There's something that you still need to do, and make a difference in the world. Steve Jobs said, let's go and dent the universe. And how do you dent the universe? How do you make a difference in this world of ours? And really, the first piece is what most of us try and do is we get, and this might be where we get stuck. We want to get a car. We have a goal for a car. We have a goal for a business. We have a goal for a relationship. We have many goals. But why do you want, let's use a car for example. Why do you want the fancy car? Often it is because you don't want the car. It's not the car. It is you want acceptance and you want respect from the other
from other people. And there's an old saying which I love is we buy stuff that we can't afford to impress people who don't care about us. So why do we do it? Because in our lives we often are short of acceptance, we feel rejection, and a lot of this often comes from our childhood. Our parents who didn't have a manual, and even parents that have manuals on how to bring up children these days, we kind of mess it up anyway. So we're still going to affect our children negatively or positively. But generally, most of our trauma comes from some kind of childhood. As Francis of Assisi said, give me the boy and I'll give you the man. Our personality, from what I've read, it's apocryphal, but is pretty much is formed up until the age of 7. Then that 90% of how we get our programming is up until the age of 7. So our parents have a big impact, and if you're a parent, you have a massive impact on your child. Okay. My daughter was 4 years old at the time. Said to my partner and I, Mommy and Daddy, I want to tell you something. So she sat us on the couch and she stood in front of us. And in that moment, I'm convinced she was channeling, because what I saw was an old Celtic kind of picked with that blue war paint on her. And she said, I was sitting with the old crone, and when you came past, we chose you. And I'm so glad that we chose you. So what she really said was that we choose our parents. We chose our parent. And there's a big responsibility to that for us as parents once we've been chosen. So, you've been chosen to help this little being become something magnificent. So that was quite a thing for me. But many of us have come from homes where it's not ideal. It's let's face it, there's abuse in the home, there's alcoholism, there's could be 100 things. Many of us are very lucky if we have both parents. Just we come from single parent homes. Sometimes the children have to run the home, which is becoming more and more common, particularly in South Africa. So all these things have impacts on us. So sometimes we can feel that life is a desperate situation, and there's a triangle that we use, which talks about that we're either a victim, or we're a rescuer, or we're a persecutor. Now here's how, and just now I'll show you how the heart works, but here's how we attract stuff to ourselves. If you believe you're a victim, and I think many people believe they're victims. We're victims of apartheid, we're victims of colonialism, we're victims of the Boer War, we're victims of our circumstance. There's a lot of things that we can be victims, and I'm not denigrating them. I'm just saying these things happened, but we cannot stay in victim mode forever, because if we stay in victim mode, here's what spiritually and mentally happens: we will always attract a persecutor. So the more the victim mode you got, you will find someone who will come and persecute you. I don't care who it is. So if you're in victim mode the whole time, you will find and attract the persecutor that will prove to you that you are a victim. The other place that we sit in is the rescuer mode. For the older generation, we kind of had, as a man, we kind of had our place in the world. We kind of knew we had to provide, we had to do this. But the world's changed. Men and women are becoming equal. Well, I don't know why a woman would want to become equal to us. She's more superior. So she doesn't want to downgrade. But the point is that the dynamics of relationships have changed. And the trick is that whatever your vibration is, you both have to be vibrating at a similar level for this thing to work. If one is vibrating higher than the other, this will fall away. So you both have to be trying to vibrate at the right level. So the trick to that is, we're going to be attracting people that are similar to us. But in my world, and I'm a lot older, we kind of choose the damsel in distress or the person in distress so we can save them, so that we can rescue them. And it brings out our rescuer. And especially in my kind of world where I teach, I train, I motivate, we rescue, we give other people advice. But we don't take the advice for ourselves often. It's easy, a cobbler doesn't have shoes for his own kids. So it's easy for us to rescue because then we don't have to deal with our stuff. Because if I'm saving somebody else, then I don't have to deal with my demons and what's going on in my life. So, and then of course, and we also become a persecutor. And often we become persecutors when it's that little child that comes out in us, that 7-year-old that couldn't protect their mother from a beating. So now we're trying to protect other people. But that's what happens is so our persecutor comes out, and we also sometimes do things that we shouldn't be doing. So we go in that triangle in between. So sometimes we feel like a victim, sometimes we're a rescuer, sometimes we're a persecutor. But the trick, and maybe for the purpose of this interview, is that you got to go from victimhood to mastery. If you stay a victim, it's just not going to work for you. And that's why we feel disillusioned, and sometimes we feel suicidal, and that the world is against us. But you have to believe that you are the point of this exercise. God put you on this planet to do something amazing. And nothing is there actually to harm you, even the bad stuff. Because if I harmed you, for example, all I'm doing is harming my brother and sister, and all I'm doing is harming myself. If I harm a tree, without trees we cannot survive this thing. You've probably read somewhere that there's a big concern about bees dying out. If bees die out, we die out. We can't survive. Absolutely not. So everything is connected. We are all connected, from the flowers to the trees to each human being to our spirit. We are connected. And how do I know this? Well, if you think about a body, if you're sick, if let's say your kidney is sore, which is probably not where my kidney is, but wherever the kidney is. Let's say your kidney is sore. It affects the whole body. So you can't be separate from anything. So any pain you have is going to affect the whole body. And so each one of us in the 7 billion population of the world, we will play our part. And if one of us is out of alignment, we affect everybody else. If we're out of alignment in our family, we affect anybody else. So that's so really what I want to say is that it takes a self-work, that you've got to start with yourself first. And I'm not saying be selfish, but be self-preserving. Because and here's the thing, it is hard to work on yourself because things come out that you don't want to, that you've kept hidden. But the more you can get the stuff out, the more you can start dealing with whatever issues you have, the more light you become. And that's the goal of us as spiritual beings, is to create light in this world. And the more light we become, we can actually, from what I've read, and especially in terms of light workers, we can actually heal our ancestors, their trauma. And the more we heal everyone's trauma, the better the light in the world is for us. That's really what we're here about, is to create light, because there is darkness, but you need the darkness to have the light. We need a balance, and each of us just needs to try and do our best with what cards we've been dealt. And I know a friend of mine, Esko Skatem, has said that just by being born, you have more than is your due. So just by getting to play on this planet for, it doesn't matter if it's 8 days or 80 years, you already have more than is your due. You already have so much blessing just to be able to be here, to be a sentient human being and be able to play. And what does that take? That takes, well, what should we be doing? We should be doing awe and gratitude. We should be so grateful that, hey, don't know how long I am on this planet, but for as long as I am, let me do the best and let me be grateful for everything. And I think, gratitude is the grammar of success. I think a lot of us forget that we have a lot to be grateful for. It doesn't matter what your circumstance is. I mean, you complain, I get out of bed in the morning, oh, my back's sore. You say, well, thank God you can get out of bed. You have a bed to get out of. You don't have to sleep on the floor like some people have to. Oh, I've got a stomach ache from too much food. Well, thank God you had food, And even like, if you've got nothing to be grateful for, just say, be grateful that I can see, that my eyes work, that I can speak. Wow, I mean, that's amazing. So the trick is to be grateful for what you have. And even in the mundane of life, when you have this attitude of gratitude and thankfulness, even washing dishes is something holy, because you become the best dishwasher you can be, and be grateful in the moment that I have dishes to wash, that I can and do a good job at it, because I think that's how we honor spirit and honor God, is by being the best we can be, because we've all been given this potential. Yes, often we haven't been given the opportunities, and our life is maybe not turning out how we like. And I mean, let's be real. There's stratas of society. People are born poor. People are born starving. People are born rich. Doesn't matter what. Sorry, now you put me off by. We're going to edit this. Are you okay still? Because you were okay. So we're born in different circumstances, but it doesn't matter how you're born. We all fundamentally are the same. And it doesn't matter how many zeros there are on your paycheck, how much money you've got in the bank account. Most of us can't fill that hole in our chest called insecurity. I've heard of the wealthiest people that got cancer, for example, and died. They've got all the money, but they couldn't sort out their health. So all their plans went out the window. So it can happen to any one of us. So that's part of the trick, is being grateful for being able to play here. So let's talk about success. This is obviously this is a subjective view. So many of us think, for some people, success is I'll make a lot of money, I have a beautiful car, I have a beautiful husband, a wife, kids, whatever. So success is material, and that is success for some people. But let's look at a goal, a golden goal. What constitutes a goal? Or what are the things that make it work? So and this is not my my theory. It comes from ex-Coach Kadema and his care and growth program, but it works really well. We all have a security piece. We all need to feel secure. So we're looking at sort of Maslow's hierarchy. That security piece. We need to eat. We need to have money so we can pay the bond, etc. So that is an important piece for all of us. In the old days, you didn't need money. You had to be a good hunter to bring in food for the tribe or for yourself to survive. But today, finance is the hunting. You need some kind of security. So we need to feel secure. The second thing is that it's a bit of power. We want to feel that we've made a difference in this world. That we don't want anyone to, when they come to our grave, and no one comes to our grave or no one says anything about it. We want to feel that we've made a difference. We move the dial a bit, that we've made a difference in this world, and that things are happening as a consequence of us being alive. So we all feel a need of a bit of power. Now, people buy fancy cars and what have you for status, to feel successful, but it's not, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about feeling successful. It's about being accepted. It's about not being rejected. It's about being seen. So we do that for various reasons. The third thing of any goal is does this thing fulfill me? This work I do, does it fulfill me? What I'm doing, does it fulfill me? If I'm making millions and millions of rand, but if I feel empty inside, what's the point? I mean, you've probably seen it with these soccer players and overseas that get paid like unimaginable money a week, like £160,000 a week or something. You equate that into a South African rand. You're 20 years old. How many Porsches and Bentleys can you buy? How many women can you be with? How many before you feel unfulfilled? It doesn't matter. So that money doesn't bring you fulfillment. And then next thing you start taking drugs because that helps you get, but it doesn't help because you're not fulfilled. So I remember it was a Will Smith movie, I Am Legend, and he was the only person left alive on the planet, and he had an Alsatian dog. But can you imagine being the only person left alive on the planet? So you can drive that Maserati down the road, you can eat the best food, you can do all of that. But how long will it be before you start thinking about taking your life? Because you have no connection with anybody. And that is really what this world is about connection with other people. And COVID has taught us that. When we were locked down for those 200 days, we lost that connection and we started realizing how important our relationships are, much more important than money, much more important than all the things that we think are important. And that's part of our success model, is based on our relationship and connecting with other human beings. Because if we don't have that, we just feel disconnected. And then the fourth thing is that we want to live in harmony. We just want to get along, and we want to live in harmony. So, does your goal, whatever it is, make you feel that successful? Does your goal do that for you? So, I use an example. Imagine that you met the husband and wife of your dreams, and that fulfilled all those pieces, that you were happy. But you lived on a little plot in Bloemfontein. But you fulfilled all those needs. You felt secure because you were fed and you were happy. You felt you had status. You had all of that. Then why would you want to strive for more? Because you already hit your happiness. You already hit your success. So, success looks different to different people. Also, the younger you are, the success looks different, because it is the nature of the human that when you are young, you're a hunter. You need to go and smash down doors. You want to make something of yourself in this world. But as you get older, you start realizing that, one day when you're called by the Grim Reaper, you start realizing that, hey, I can't take this with me. So other things become more important, like family, like relationships, like connection. So as you get older, you become more mature and you start realizing, my time might be up soon, and what's more important, my family is important to me, that connection is important to me. So, for example, people can say, if you bring up a child with good morals and values, and this person becomes an amazing person in the world, and is that not a success? So you're a successful parent, but it doesn't need money to give a child character, to teach a child how to navigate this world in a way that makes you proud, in a way that sits with spirit, that sits with God. That I always say, whatever you do, would your mother be proud of you? So, would your parents be proud of you? And that's sort of the indicator of would you be proud of you? So success is a maturity thing. Yes, of course, when we're young, we're more into status. We wear the fancy clothes, we wear the labels, but all that is to get acceptance from our peers. And the problem is, when you want acceptance from your peers, you end up weak and disillusioned, because your peers will pull you how they want to. The people that you're trying to impress can move you how you want to, and you have to become centered in your own life so that you know exactly where you are going and how you navigate this life and what makes you happy, because when you are happy, then other people become happy. And often we come from this empty glass where we try and make other people happy. But if we're not happy in ourselves, and I mean, we can see that we're a society of pill poppers. You know, we've got a problem, depression, we take a pill, But that just masks the problem. You've got to go to the core and try and figure that out, and then that's how it works. So what makes me happy in the world? Well, I think what I'm seeing in the world today is that we understand that we need to be connected to each other, and connection has become a big thing in this world, probably partly as a consequence of COVID, but families are getting together more, we're communicating more, people are becoming more human, and it's not just about themselves, it's about helping the other too. So that, for me, that must keep on going. We need to keep on looking for connection with each other. We need to be, and there's a lot of love in this world. There's a lot of people that do good. I mean, if we look at the negative part, I mean, it's probably a minority of people that do it, but that gets the most airplay, anything negative. But there's lots of good news, but it doesn't serve newspapers to sell good news because no one reads them then. So we all, but here's the thing, is that, you know, that if you focus on the negative all the time, you're just going to keep attracting the negative. You know, where your focus goes, where your attention goes, your focus comes, it comes back to you. So I also, what's become apparent to me is that I think we're becoming more spiritual. This has definitely become a trend. I mean, more and more people are accepting light workers and people that have different modalities to us, you know, whatever it is, but people that bring the light. So we're more accepting. I mean, I think we're becoming more accepting of people. I mean, especially, and our children are teaching this. You know, there's gender fluidity. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we can navigate this world now. So, I mean, our children challenge us that, like, we've got to become much more in tune with the world. So, yeah. So that, and what I'm noticing in the world as well is there's a lot of love out there. You know, there's people that they're not big companies that do social responsibility and give to charity, but there's people that are charitable in their communities, that are helping each other get where they want to go, and just reaching out a helping hand. I mean, I have a friend, and I won't mention his name because he's very humble about it, but you know, he's put a child through university, through school and university, but it costs him 10,000 rand a month to do this underprivileged child, but he doesn't talk about it. No one knows except me. Now you do, but you don't know who he is. But he doesn't go and put it in and put it in the paper or whatever. He just does it because that's what we do. We help our neighbor. So for me, the big thing, the big positivity is connection. If we also look at, I mean, science is, things are moving. I mean, we're living longer. If you take the average king in the old days in Europe, they don't live like we do. I mean, the average king lived in a bear skin and, you know, had a fire and had to sit listening, was cold. But we have amazing things that are happening to us. So I think we're living in the best time that we can be living in. Yeah. Well, from a spiritual perspective, you've probably heard of we're going into what they call a fifth dimensional energy, which is more heart energy, and we're coming out of a third dimensional energy, which is more solar plexus energy, and it's a fear-based energy. And you can see, I mean, what I really, it's almost the last wag of the tiger's tail, is like Putin and Ukraine. These people are fear-based. So we're very fear-based. So we start wars. We're hanging on to that third dimensional energy because we don't want to lose it. People want to keep stuff for themselves and just protect themselves and not share it. So what I want is, so I'm just thinking about it. Okay, here we go. What I would like to see is that we get out of this materialistic world that we're in. That's what I would love to see, because we push too much stock in the Ferrari we drive or the car we drive or this. As I've said, this does not make you happy. And also, if you take South Africa, for example, I mean, there is a big gap between the haves and the have-nots. Why would the haves rub it in the have-nots' face? Instead of sharing, we don't share, we just take. So we become selfish, we become greedy. And I think that this whole consumer philosophy that we got to, I mean, I've got a cell phone that's now coming for an upgrade. Now I've got to upgrade it because, but this one works perfectly. Yeah, I don't need to upgrade it, but why? Because it's got a bit less better, maybe it's more status and whatever. But we have been, in my opinion, brainwashed as consumers. And by the way, being a consumer is like being a locust. You just take, just consume, and you give nothing back. And we can see it happening to our planet. We're consuming this planet. We're absolutely consuming the planet. Why do you think people like Elon Musk and that are trying to find another planet for us to live on? Because we have consumed this planet. I would love to see that money, instead of going to look for Mars or wherever, be put into fixing this planet and fixing each one of us. That could be, for me, would be a win. But it's not going to happen, because it's more sexy to go find another world than to save this one. That's my opinion. So what I'd like to see is people that, starting to care more. Stop being so selfish. Stop just thinking about yourself. I see it every day in South Africa. People throw paper out of their car windows. They litter. And I'm going, like, how does that work? I mean, on what planet are you? How's your brain work to be able to do that? Litter, the way we treat. But here's the thing: the way we treat ourselves, we treat ourselves badly. I mean, we don't even put in good food into our bodies. We don't exercise. We don't even respect ourselves. So if we can't respect ourselves, how are we going to respect anybody else? So once again, the theme of my this interview is, once again, it's self-love. It's working with yourself first and getting that self-respect first. But yeah, so that's really all I want to say, is that let's stop this materialism and consumerism and start getting to be what's real. And what's real is connection with yourself and connection with each other and love. That's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Because when you take your last dying breath, I promise you're not going to be thinking about how much you earned. That's not going to, well, I hope not. That's not going to be in the play. You're going to be thinking about maybe regretting things you haven't done, that you could have done, or being better. So yeah, so for me, I'd just like to see more love and more positivity and less materialism and less, how much stuff do I have? Because, as Esco said, doesn't matter how much stuff you've got, doesn't matter zeros, it can't fill that hole in your chest called insecurity. You're still going to be insecure. And yeah, that's my take on it. So the show Gold, I mean, I think that you're doing a brilliant thing, because we need more positivity in the world. Bad news sells, but positivity doesn't sell, but we need to make it positive. And so that's why people like Gold, people that are involved in light workers, spiritual workers, people that are motivational speakers, every little positive drop that happens can change our attitude, and we can realize that things aren't as bad as they seem. In fact, things are absolutely fabulous for us. That you get to breathe and play on this planet for one more day is such a win. Would you like it any other way? I still want to do something here on this planet, and when my time is up, then it's up. But then so shows like Gold, I don't think they get the traction that they should, because people focus more on the negative. But the more positivity you have and the more light we create on this planet, the better for all of us in the long run. We spend all our time being offended by other people. Stop being offended by other people. Because if we're going to be offended by other people, by what Putin does, by what this guy does, by what that guy does, we're going to spend our time spinning our wheels and always being in the negative. Figure out what you can do. That's all. The other person, whether they're a bad person or a good person, it is not your problem. It's not your job to get involved. They're on a journey with God themselves. They have to answer. You're on a journey with Spirit yourself. So you have to answer for yourself, not for your wife, not for your children, not for your husband. You're on a personal journey, and only you can answer for yourself. That person's going to answer for themselves in their time, but it's not up to you to answer for them. So that's a quote I like. And then another one comes from Jung, and I'm also going to mess it up, but basically what irritates you in the other is what's irritating you in yourself. So often when we're angry, if you're angry with someone is a mirror to you. Before you go and attack that person, go, what is that person triggering in me? And you actually realize you're angry with yourself, because that person is highlighting and mirroring some of the inadequacies that you, or things that are bugging you in yourself. So the trick is to become an observer. So when you feel anger, when you feel disappointment, when you feel sadness, just take a breath and go, oh, why is that person making me feel sad or angry? It's not that person. That person's just mirroring me, but he's triggering something in me. So I love that. So, and that's how we do the self-work, because it's not about the other person. It's actually the stuff that sits in us that comes out, but we see it in the other person. But all that other person is doing is mirroring who we are. I have lots of books to recommend. And I know it sounds very trite, but readers are leaders. The more you read, because you can learn from other people's mistakes, and you can shortcut and bring your success closer by learning from others. So these people are mentors. Though there are many books. I read a lot of self-help books. I read a lot of spiritual books. So there's tons of them out there that you can read. There's books on habits, there's books on flow, there's books on business. So one of the books that really appealed to me is Outliers. So basically the premise is that you've got to do 10,000 hours of dedicated work in your craft, become really good at what you want to do, and then the second premise is based on and have a bit of luck. So it's where, luck is where knowledge and opportunity dissect. So you have the knowledge, and now the opportunity comes, and now you use that. So luck plays a big part. And Nassim Taleb, he's a Lebanese economist who wrote Black Swan and Anti-Fragile and a whole bunch of other books. He made a beautiful statement. He said, what is the difference between successful businessmen, the usual suspect, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Elon Musk? What is the difference between them and the hundreds of thousands and millions of entrepreneurs in the graveyard of failure? What was the difference? And he said there's one word. It's called randomness. A bit of luck. Because these people were at the right place at the right time. They met a person that could move their agenda forward. And if you're in business, for me, or in anything, your network, the people that you meet are the ones that are going to move you up. So that's why get a big network and go out and experience things. Go and meet those kind of people that can move you. I mean, Bill Gates, for example, he went to a school in America that had one of the first computer centers, and as a consequence, he fell in love with computers. But what if Bill Gates had gone to an art school? Then there wouldn't be a Bill Gates. Well, not the way we know him. Maybe someone else would have invented Microsoft, but Bill Gates wouldn't have done it. And And if you look at luck, if you want to take it to its extreme, we don't even have a say of who the parents that we are born to. That's luck. You're born to this parent. You're born to a Muslim parent. You're born to a Jewish parent. You're born to a Christian parent. You're born to a rich parent. You're born to a poor parent. And that immediately starts the trajectory of your life. You have no say in that. So that's a bit of luck. But it doesn't matter whether you're born to a rich parent or a poor parent. You can still make your own destiny. You can still make it happen for yourself. Because being rich doesn't equate to being successful. I mean, some of the poorest people are the most successful. Look at Buddha. Look at all of those kind of people. We want to be like that. Like totally spiritually connected to Source. That is success. So, if I may relate a story with Carlos Castaneda. So Carlos Castaneda apprenticed himself to a Jacque Indian called Don Juan, who was a shaman. And he hung around with him on and off for 13 years. And the one day they were at a restaurant in Mexico, and they saw beggars taking food off the table. So Don Juan said to Castaneda, who was Spanish, had an anthropological degree, and came from quite a good family. Said, do you feel sorry for those beggars? So Castaneda said, yeah, well, yes, I do, they're begging on the street. And he said, do you feel superior to them? Because you've got all your degrees and you've got all this fancy. And then Don Juan dropped the penny. He said, what makes you think that they haven't found the path before you? What makes you think they haven't found the path before you? Because what Castaneda says is that all paths lead to nowhere. So find a path with heart. Find that path that sets your heart afire, that fulfills you. And that's how you're going to show up in the world. And once you find that path, you're going to show up as you should, and you will be successful. Not necessarily financially successful, but you will be fulfilled, which a lot of people, is that what people are striving for, is fulfillment. Happiness, love, connection. If you can have that, then you are the most successful human being on the planet. So out of the things I've said, I think these are the 4 things that would make someone successful. Well, and I can only once again bring it to my life. What works for me may not necessarily work for you. But the first thing is you have to love yourself. You have to come to self and start accepting yourself. Because if you don't, you're going to start playing small for other people so they can feel better. So that's the first thing. You have to have a positive attitude, because the more positive you are, you attract positivity to yourself. And could I use the example that I want to do with these rods? So if your heart is open and positive, you will attract things to yourself. So your heart has enough energy for 12 feet. So anyone that comes into someone who is full of love and full of joy will be attracted to this person. And in fact, if your heart is full of love and joy, the beats actually resonate in your brain, so the other person's brain. So the other person picks up that the heartbeat of your heartbeat and resonates with you. So I'm just going to do this. So I just wanted you to think a positive thought. So think love. You see how you open up the rods? Okay, now let's just turn it around. Think a negative thought. So a negative thought, so something sad. Got it? Now these rods should close if there's a negative thought. See? They close. Because you stop your energy. When you love and you project, you open up your energy and you attract people to yourself. So you need to have love. You need to be positive. You also need to take action, because there's many of us that kind of do the law of attraction. If I think it and believe it, it's going to happen. It doesn't work like that in real life. For some people, yes, maybe. But you've got to, once you have the thought out there, you've got to take action, set goals, Go out and do that. Go meet the people. Do whatever it takes for it to happen. So I find that action does work. And then the third thing is, part of success is expectation. Be careful of your expectation, because we expect everything to work out perfectly how we planned it. And mostly it doesn't. It actually works out better. Because if you think spiritually, when you actually have stuff that you set your goal for, you actually limit yourself. Because instead of opening up to Spirit has better plans for you, has more for you, that you can't even conceive. So your expectations are often limiting you to not achieve what you can really achieve in the world. And I'm not talking about financial, I'm talking about that security, harmony, fulfillment, and power. So be careful of expectation, because I've often had where I thought this is what I want, but I got something else that was similar, and that was actually what I wanted, or served me better. So often what you think of that you want is not going to serve you better. Let me take an example. You want a car, you want a fancy car, so you expect an expensive car. Guess what? That costs you money. 8-10 grand. Now you're a youngster. Can you afford 8-10 grand? No. There's licensing fees. There's insurance that's more expensive. There's petrol that's more expensive. Suddenly this thing that you wanted has actually become a burden to you because it's too expensive to run. So sometimes, or you want the fancy big house. Okay, that's great. But now you have to have gardeners, you have to have servants, you have to have domestic helpers, you have to have handymen coming to fix. Now this house that you wanted that's so massive has suddenly become also a burden to you, because you have to work, you have to get people to fix it, and now it becomes a hassle for you. So suddenly it's not what you expected. So I say temper your expectation. In fact, don't have an expectation. Have a hope. But if it doesn't work out as you plan, in your heart know that it's working out for your best interest. So maybe you're not supposed to have the fancy car because it's not in your best interest. Maybe you're not supposed to do this because it's not in your best interest. Spirit will find what is in your best interest. And it often, in the moment, it doesn't look like it's in your best interest. It looks like a disaster. But when you re-engineer your life from going backwards, you say, but everything happened that got me to this place I'm at right now. And is this place I'm at right now, does it make me feel secure, powerful, fulfilled, and harmonious? And if it does, then you've cracked the code. Okay, so the qualities of a good speaker. Well, firstly, you have to have a bit of experience. You have to have a bit of blood on the street. You have to have a bit of tear. You have to have been on the floor crying in once or twice in your life from disappointment. Because I have these youngsters that come at 18, they want to be motivational speakers. I'm going, wow, what life experience have you had? I think good motivational speakers only start maybe 35 onwards, because they have a bit of life under their belt. They've had disappointment, they've had pleasure, they've had joy, they've had all these things. So from experience, because a lot of people take book learning, or speakers take book learning, and then they just parrot it on stage. But it's not them. So it reminds me of a Sufi prophet what once said his disciples kept on bringing him other people's theories. And eventually he slammed his hand down and he said, "Bring me fresh meat." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Bring me the illumination in you. Bring me you. Bring me your experience, not other people's experience." And that's what good motivational speakers have. They have their own experience. They have life. So that's the first thing that makes you, I think, and that you have a message to tell, that you want to make a difference. So you have to want to do that. The second thing is stagecraft. You have to become a good storyteller. You have to work your craft. Do your 10,000 hours. Do a lot of free talks if you're going to be a speaker. Learn your craft. Go to Toastmasters. Learn how to be a speaker. Learn how to use your voice. Learn how to pause. All the mechanics of speaking. Learn how to manage a stage. learn how to use a microphone. All of that is important. Go and learn your craft. I mean, if I look at the top motivational speakers in South Africa today, most of them have had 20 years under their belt. It didn't come overnight. They're now only making their real money because they've worked their craft, treat it as a craft. But bottom line is that you have to have a message that's going to inspire people to want to be better. And the trick to not burning out as a speaker, a teacher, a trainer, is that you need to understand that you cannot take your audience over the finish line. You cannot do what you tell them that you tell them they must do. You can only teach them. They then have a choice whether they decide to take your learning and do something with it or not. That's their choice. But you cannot become vested in their outcome. You can only become vested in your outcome, and your outcome in that hour that you do the talk is to be the best human being and best speaker that you can possibly be in that moment. And if you can do that, people will resonate with you and will take your message. And I may be a bit of a cynic here, but if 3% of your audience does anything that you say they must do, that's a lot. Most people treat life as an arbitrary exercise. They are disengaged with their own life. They are disengaged with the life of others. They're never going to take what you have to say and do something with it. Those are not your tribe. Your tribe are the people that are going to do something with it. So you speak to those people. But you cannot save the other people, or you cannot save anybody, in fact. In fact, the only people you can save are people in a car crash, burning in a fire, drowning. But only you as an individual can save yourself. And that's the big lesson. Nobody can save you. No one's coming to save you, I promise you. Only you can save yourself to become a proper human being and to become this being that you want to become. Yes, you can learn from speakers, you can learn from teachers, but ultimately, when the end comes and the Grim Reaper comes, only you can be held to account for what you did, not what you were taught.
Amazing. Thank you. I think let's
I'm Jacque de Villiers. I'm a professional speaker, writer, and author. And if you want to really be successful, keep going for gold. Go for the gold that's within you, and go for that gold, and you will have an amazing life.
Thank you. Amazing. Why is this dog barking? I can't hear. You can hear. Okay.
Yeah, but I can do it. But that sounded a bit corny.
No,
No,
let's,
this is okay.
let's do it again. No, let's do it again. You can
Okay,
take
let's do it
second
again.
take.
Okay.
Yeah. Second take. 3, 2, 1. Action.
My name is Jacque de Villiers. I'm a professional speaker, writer, and author. And why don't you, like me, go for gold?
Amazing. Action.
My name is Jacque de Villiers. I'm a professional speaker, writer, and author. Like me, why don't you go for gold and achieve anything you want to? My name is Jacque de Villiers. I'm a professional speaker, writer, and author. Catch me on gold this week.
Amazing.
My name is Jacque de Villiers. I'm a professional speaker, writer, and author. Keep watching gold with King Nee.
Thank you. Amazing. So let me check the last.
Okay. So my tip for youngsters who are just coming up in the world, who are making their mark in the world, be useful. That's all you need to be, is be useful. Learn the skills that are going to make you useful as a human being and as a person in this world. And put 100% into what you're doing. Because there's an old saying that, work builds your character, or strife builds your character. Strife does not build your character. Strife reveals your character. So when the tough times come, your character is revealed. It's already there. So do the best you can with what you have, and always strive to be the best. Do not fall into the trap of mediocrity and only doing as much as you can to get by. So do that, and I believe that you will be successful. A story that I read when I was very, very young, and the story was about this this neighbor hires this young boy to help him do chores. He's got about 10 chores to do. And this boy is a bit, he's not really into it, but so he does the job half. He doesn't do the job fully. And so every job he does, he just does enough just to make it look like it was done, and then he moves on to the next job. At the end of the day, he goes to the neighbor and he says, well, I finished all my work. Could you pay me, please? I said, but that's impossible because I left money under the rock. I left money at every job. If you had completed the job, you would have had the money. So that lesson, I don't know, it just weirdly stuck in my brain. So that whenever I do things now, I always try and do the best I can because I never want to do a mediocre job. I want to do the best I can. So weirdly, that story stuck in my brain, but it has served me well because I might not be good at a lot of things, but I always try my best to do what's right and to do the right thing. And that's made all the difference in my life. So that one little story has taken the way I navigate the world into a different dimension.
Amazing.
All right, well, if I can go to Isaac Newton, I stand on the shoulders of giants so that I can see further. And in my speaking career, many people have given me a hand up so that I can become the speaker I am today, the trainer, the writer. There's many, many people. But there's a couple of people that stand out, and they're not by any means the only people, but for me, I have a connection with them. And I want to say thank you, Kali Rus, for being an amazing human being that has taught me humility and taught me to be authentic. Thank you, Steph du Plessis, who is probably one of the top speakers in this country. Thank you for your wisdom and your grace and always being there to help me become the best version of myself. And also thank you to Billy Selakani, who's also shown me that he came from from barefoot to snakeskin shoes. That shows me that it doesn't matter the adversity that you face, that you can achieve anything you want to. So those are three speakers that really have impacted me. But there are thousands that I haven't mentioned that have made an immense difference in my life. And they have put me into the space I am today. So once again, I go back to Isaac Newton. I stand on the shoulders of giants so that I can see further. And I'm humbled and gratified for all the help you've given me.